everybody. Welcome to today's Prospects webinar, which is looking after your mental health at university. Today we're joined by Dominic Thompson from Student Minds, who will be telling you everything that you need to know on the subject. Just a couple of housekeeping tips before we get started. This is a half-an-hour webinar, so we're looking at around 20 minutes of Dominic's presentation, and then we've got 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions. So if you do have a question throughout the presentation, you just pop them in the Q&A box, and Dominic will be able to get to them at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded, so you will be receiving the on-demand link just after the live event. So if you'd like to watch the session again, or if you'd like to share with any friends or family, get my words out today, please feel free to do so. And one final thing, we do have subtitles at the bottom of the page. If you are finding them distracting, you can control those at the bottom of your Zoom page. It just says live transcript, and you'll be able to alter the settings there. I think that's everything from me. Dominic, I'd like to take it away. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ellie. That's really kind. Well, thank you so much for asking me to talk about probably my favourite topic, which is how students can look after themselves at university. So we live in uncertain times. It can be quite useful to have a few top tips, and that's what I'm going to try and do. Just my background, just so that you know, I was a university GP for nearly 20 years. I worked at the University of Bristol. I was head of department there for a long time. And since the last 4 years, I've spent my time trying to get the message out there about how to look after yourself at university through a variety of ways. So I've written a series of books, I've done some TEDx talks, I give talks all over the place. That's a photo of me in Beirut a couple of years ago giving a talk. I find that a lot of people are very interested to know about student mental health. So what are we aiming for? Let's just lay that out very briefly. When we say we want good mental health, we're not talking about feeling happy all the time. It's not really a normal human state. It'd probably be a bit boring, but actually that just isn't realistic. What we want is to feel and function well. You want to be able to do the things that you need to do, that you want to do. You're studying, friendships, relationships, get a job, all of that. But it's fair to say that mental health goes up and down each day. So every day is different. And also sometimes we need help to feel and stay well. And that's okay. And I'm going to talk a bit about that. I did ask some students over the last sort of couple of months, really, so at the end of last year and into this year, what is it that's on their mind? So you can see there, and you might identify with some of the issues that they've felt coming into this academic year. I'll just let you have a very quick look at those. And you can see that the main things are the social disconnection, the isolation, the worries about the future, and also a little bit around that sort of academic worry. You know, what have I missed? I don't know what I don't know, those sorts of worries. And hopefully some of the things I'm going to say today will help with just getting through difficult times. So I'm going to basically give you my kind of 4 top tips. There are obviously loads of things that we can do, but these are my quick 20-minute, as it were, 4 top tips. So I'm going to go into each of the 3 at the top: building your network, trying new things and finding purpose, and then my secret ingredient. So number 1, building your network. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for humans to have other humans around us. We need our social network, and we need to build that through our lives. It's not an instant thing. We gradually meet and kind of collect people who are supportive, who are positive for us. And that's family and friends, people we meet on our courses, people we meet through accommodation. You know, one of the best ways to meet people is through volunteering. It's a fantastic way to meet like-minded people. So build your network. The people around you, they will be your support. Trying new things. This is really important for building self-esteem. We can get into a state of mind where we don't want to try new things because we're worried we'll get them wrong and we won't be very good at them and we'll make a fool of ourselves, or we won't be the best. And actually, it's a really important part of our learning, our development, human development, brain development, all of that, to try new stuff and learn from it. And it doesn't matter if we get it wrong and we're not the best at it. Mistakes are part of learning. Some of the most famous people in our society made mistakes or failed, as we see it, whether that's, you know, Steve Jobs or Walt Disney, who was told at 18 he wasn't creative enough and was fired from his newspaper job. We have to understand that that's all part of life. And when we do that and we try new things and we get, you know, a learning experience, or we get it wrong, we will feel good for having tried it and actually given it a go. And that's what we need to focus on. So if you are worried about this sort of thing, talk to people around you, tell people how you feel if you feel worried about it, but don't worry so much about, you know, taking those kind of good risks in life. This one comes up all the time. So whenever I was sitting in my consulting room and people would come in and talk to me about how they were feeling and their emotional ups and downs, something that came up quite a lot was this feeling of not knowing what their purpose was in life. And this seemed to worry some people really quite a lot, get quite down about it. So I'm here to tell you that you don't need to know what your purpose is, actually. It will either become apparent, it might be something that changes through life, like you might be a GP for a long time and then become an author and a speaker. But my point really is not to focus so much on your big purpose in life, because, you know, some people just don't have one. They do loads of things in life. But actually, it's important to have a little purpose for every day, a sort of small daily purpose that gets us up, gets us going. And that can be something that's like, I'm going to read a bit of my work or chapter of my book or write a piece of work. But it might be, I'm going to bake a cake for a friend because they're feeling, you know, a bit down, or it's their birthday, or I'm going to phone my granny. There are lots of different things that can make us feel good that we achieve each day. So a little mini purpose for every day. And that really helps us. And my secret ingredient, well, I didn't invent it, is sleep. Okay, we completely underestimate how important sleep is for our physical and mental health. And it isn't always easy to get the sleep we need. If you're under 25, then you'll probably still need 8 to 9 hours a night. As you go over 25 and the brain development shifts and changes, you're probably okay with 7.5 hours. But we all need our sleep. And it's important for mood, you know, how we feel day to day, whether we feel down or flat the next day. Really important for memory and therefore academic work. And it's important for our metabolism and our physical health as well. So just remember the kind of sleep rules of going to bed and getting up at the same time each day where possible. It's okay to, you know, go to bed late, like midnight or 1, that's fine, as long as you're getting the hours in at the other end, you know, sleeping through till sort of, you know, 8, 9 basically. But if you can't do that, then, you know, try and make sure you maximize when you can sleep. If you're struggling with your sleep, now I saw a lot of students struggling with their sleep. The first thing to do is try and get back into the good habits. So first of all, check that you're doing the things you should be doing, not asleep in the daytime, exercising not too late at night, not having caffeine and alcohol late into the day, those things. The worst thing you can do is that whole pulling an all-nighter, sleeping, not at all, in fact, and working through the day and then through the night, because what happens is that you destroy the work you did during the day and you feel exhausted the next day. Remember that your brain is at its busiest when you're asleep. It is filing stuff, processing stuff, putting memories in the right place. If you work really hard in the day and then have a good night's sleep, you will do so much better in an exam or in a presentation or whatever. If you're struggling with your sleep and you've tried all these things for a good couple of weeks and you're still struggling, please talk to someone about it, because there are specific CBT type approaches now for sleep that are available on the NHS. And there's an amazing website called Sleep Station. It's an NHS website. So don't struggle on. If you're struggling with these sorts of common academic problems, really, really common, perfectionism, procrastination, struggling to get down to stuff and starting it, imposter syndrome, all of those sorts of worries are really common. And I just illustrate how common it is to kind of make mistakes, and it's okay not to be so worried about getting things wrong and fear of failure, by putting a picture of my actual pen there. Now, it's a pen made by, as many pens were, thousands of these Patient Information Forum pens. Brilliant Patient Information Forum. It's an amazing organisation to support health in the UK. It's a national organisation, but they made a mistake in their printing. It happens. And I'm just making the point that it doesn't matter sometimes. Okay, you just got to work with that and not be aiming for perfect all the time. And if you find you're doing that, talk to someone about that. Talk to a counsellor or to your personal tutor or your GP. We are there to help with these things. If homesickness is a bit of an issue, and that still can be an issue into this term, I try to look at things, like how can you make it feel more cozy, more relaxing, staying in touch with home, of course, but maybe get your home team, whoever that is, your family, your parents, your carers, to send some care packages. Maybe that is really helpful, things that you miss. Think about planning a visit, even if it's not soon, it's nice to have it in the diary. It just makes you feel better. And don't forget to connect with your new home, and that might mean on a Sunday going out for a walk in your local area and exploring the local area and discovering what it is that makes it, a great place to live, and not thinking all the time about home. If you're noticing these sorts of things, I'm here to tell you, you're not alone. Okay, it's really common, but don't struggle on with these on your own. Okay, so if you're always feeling like you can't think straight, you've got brain fog, you feel on edge all the time, or your appetite and sleep are all over the place, if that's been all of these things, any of them are going on for more than 2 to 4 weeks, as a GP, I'm asking you to talk to someone about it and not sort of struggle on and think, well, this is just part of life, this is just how it is. Okay, it is not okay to just be feeling like that all the time. So if you're getting to that situation where it's really getting on, maybe even a month of feeling just you can't sleep, you're not eating, you can't make decisions, you can't focus, those sorts of things are not just normal at that level of, going on for weeks. So you should definitely contact someone who you trust, who's non-judgmental, who'll listen to you. There are fantastic resources out there online. Student Minds, who I am a clinical advisor for and work with a lot, do some amazing resources. Check out the Student Space website. But remember, the university is full of confidential services, people whose job is literally to help students get through in the best way, as healthily as they can. So, those of us who chose to work in universities or choose to work in universities, we do it because we want to work with students, So I really just want you to feel that you can come and talk to us. We are literally there for you. That's our job. Here's my very quick tip if you're struggling with anxiety, because anxiety is the commonest thing that we see. So whether I'm a counsellor in university or a GP or a disability team member, anxiety is the number one thing. So this is a quick technique. If you feel like you're a bit on edge or getting a bit panicky, try this shifting attention technique. Sit or lie wherever you are. If you're sitting in an exam or sitting on the bus, or if you're lying in bed and you can't go to sleep, take a moment to think, and I'll do the 5 senses one. Right, what's one thing I can see, one thing I can smell, one thing I can touch, one thing I can, sorry, I don't know if you can see, I'm getting a software update reminder. One thing I can, so I'll start again. One thing I can see, one thing I can smell, one thing I can touch, one thing I can hear, and one thing I can taste. And if you go through those and then again, those things help distract you from what was causing the anxiety. And it's a fantastic technique to just practice sometimes, maybe when you're lying in bed or when you're, sitting somewhere quiet, and just try the distraction technique. If your friend is struggling, which is really common, actually, you don't need to be the expert and you don't need to fix it. You can do 3 positive things: listen to them, believe them, and give them hope. So first of all, just open listening, just letting them tell you their story, really hear what they're saying and validate them so they feel like they matter. Believe them, because sometimes you'll be the first person they've told. And, if they tell you and you don't believe them, they're probably not going to tell anyone else ever. And it could be something really important for them. And then finally, give hope. That means just giving a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Look, I know this feels really difficult, you might say, but I think it can be better than this. Let's see what we can find. And then maybe sit with them to look up some resources or book an appointment with the GP or the counselling service, or fill in an online form to get an appointment. You can help them, but you don't need to fix it. So it's about that support alongside them. And then these are just some of my favourite resources that are all out there for students. So I've mentioned Student Space from Student Minds and their website, but you might also like to look at some of the free apps that are out there, like the Student Health app, the Distract app for anyone who's worried about self-harm, the Eating Disorder Support app. What about the brilliant website from Aardman Animation? It's fantastic. Have a look at it. It's called What's Up With Everyone, and it covers things like perfectionism and isolation and social media worries and things like that. And then, of course, there are free resources like the Shout 85258 tech service with actual real specialists at the end of it. And I will always keep saying, talk to your GP, talk to your counselling service, talk to the wellbeing teams, talk to Nightline. You're not alone. I'll stop there. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to, I put lots of social media stuff up on @Dr.Dom.Thompson, so loads of resources go up there. You can always email me if you've got an ongoing worry, if I can signpost you in the right direction. And I even do some little videos that are 1 minute long called #Dom in 60 seconds on YouTube on lots of these topics. So lots of free resources out there, as well as my books. So thank you. And I will stop sharing my screen and see if there are any questions in the Q&A, and if not, I will wait happily for you to pop any questions in, or I can talk a bit more. I'm happy to do either. Thank you.
Hi, Dom. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. I mean, that was such an informative webinar. You've covered so much. I think our attendees will take so much away from that. Good. And what I really took from it as well is just to reiterate to everybody that you really can utilise university services. There is so much out there. So definitely make sure that you're doing that as well, because universities aren't just a place of learning, they're a place of support as well. And maybe sometimes like to get lost.
No, I agree. And I think, if you just type student support into your university's website, into the search, you'll find the departments, and perhaps students don't always realise that universities employ huge numbers of people who are nothing to do with the academic side and who are just there to literally deliver the support that's required, whether that's learning support, emotional support, CBT. I mean, they provide so many different things. So, just if you're not sure where to start, just go to your university's website and put in student support and see where to go or how to contact them online. And sometimes there's like just one hub you can go to where you'll get lots of advice, or they might be in lots of different places in the university. Obviously, it depends what your university is like. But I think, the key is not to struggle on alone. I can see our questions just come in. So I'm just going to have a quick read of that and see if I can get, give some advice. There's a couple of questions just coming in. So let me just have a quick difficult decision. Okay. Yeah. So making difficult decisions, that is a tricky sort of life skill, isn't it? And people come at these things in lots of different ways. It can be useful to use a visual approach. So you might start with like a blank, either piece of paper or Word document, and just literally having a sort of a bit of a brain dump of all your thoughts. It doesn't have to be in a list. It doesn't have to be pros and cons yet. Just your thoughts, your ideas, the words, almost like a word association. When you think about the challenging problem, the difficult question, start to just put down all your ideas around it and get them out. Sometimes it's easier when they're out or they're visual. You might do a mind map, but a lot of people just start with just putting everything that they feel and think about it onto one piece of paper or Word document. Then you can start to sort of pick it out and almost do a sort of bit of a themes. What are the themes here? It'll sort of help sort your thoughts a little bit. And then I would involve other people who you trust. And the most important thing is that these are positive people, people who will not just tell you what to do when you're making difficult decisions, but will actually listen to your thoughts about it and say, perhaps reflect back at you. Now, if you don't have individuals in your everyday life who might be like that, they might be a bit opinionated or whatever, it can be useful to talk to somebody, for example, in the counselling service. They will literally be there for this sort of thing. It might be the wellbeing team. It might be the careers service. It's their job. It's what we do for a living. I've spoken to students about this, and I'm a GP. I mean, we don't learn it at medical school, but I was very happy to talk to students about difficult decisions. So maybe do that, put everything out on a piece of paper and then sort it out a bit, and then go and talk to someone about it. But there are people out there so that it doesn't just overwhelm you. And the other question that's come in is so somebody's asked what I think about journaling. I think it's great, actually. I don't journal, but that's probably because I write a lot of blogs, which is kind of similar. And so I feel like I get a lot of my thoughts out that way. But I am a big fan, probably as you just heard, about writing stuff down, putting it out. The thing about journaling is that you're not then sharing it necessarily with anyone else. So that's like a private blog, isn't it? So I definitely think journaling is great. And there are some fantastic blogs about it, websites about it. I think start small if you're thinking of starting with it. But just, definitely give it a go if you're the kind of person who would find it easier to get those thoughts out and sometimes just have them, outside of your head. That can be really, really powerful. It's been well recognized for centuries to be really good for humans to do that. So really difficult question there. Oh my goodness. So the next one, so you're talking about how to have a difficult conversation with your children. That's probably not something I can answer very quickly, but I can tell you that talking to your own GP about how to have that conversation might be really, really helpful. The main thing here is, as you say, not to overwhelm them, but to give them the facts they need, to understand. I definitely think really, really important to talk to someone who knows about the situation, like a GP or like your specialist who you might have been working with, the cardiologist and so on, to think about how you frame and what needs to be done next. But I would say don't do that alone. There are actually, trained nurses, genetic specialists, all sorts of people whose job it is to do this sort of thing with you. Don't do it alone. Okay, just looking down at the next question. So really important to stay connected, as you're saying there, because you're feeling a bit isolated, you're a carer, you've got your own issues to manage and perhaps lacking some of the confidence to go out and meet people. Well, this is where The online groups, the online communities can of course be great. So if you have either groups that you work with for your course, so people on your course, there can be some networking that goes on there. And then I do think there can be some, maybe thinking about some of the charities that work out there. Either you could help them or they could help you, depending on how difficult your own situation is. But I definitely think there is support out there for people who have your particular scenario. So there's support for carers, there's support for social interaction and isolation stuff. The What's Up With Everyone website that I mentioned is by Ardman. So you just look up whatsupwitheveryone.com. There's a whole section on isolation and meeting people. And then in the website bit of it, there's the support information. So about how to meet other people. And I think Student Minds has quite a lot on this sort of thing as well. I would strongly encourage you to connect with other people as you feel comfortable to do. Yep, I can talk a bit about imposter syndrome, just seeing if any of the others. There's a few coming in about anxiety. Okay, let's just quickly do imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome, so common. We all get it at some point or other, I think, and we still get it throughout life, however much we, become experts in our own worlds and everything. So with imposter syndrome, I always think it's remembering the key to getting over it or managing it, should we say, because it'll still possibly be there, is remembering you absolutely deserve to be where you are. You've either been given a place or a position or invited to speak or participate in something because of your skills, and you have got there, you have qualified to be there in whatever way that is, exactly the same as everybody else. And you have to tell yourself that you are absolutely deserving of being there. We all have to keep doing that throughout life. And I sometimes think, like, when I'm about to step up to a podium and give a talk to hundreds of people or something, I just think, well, I know, I just have to remind myself that I know the most about what I'm about to say more than other people in the room. Other people might know lots about the topic, but I know the best about what's in my brain and what I'm trying to explain, or my message or whatever. And it's the same when you arrive at university or anything like that. Imposter syndrome is so common among students. Just keep reminding yourself you deserve to be there, the same as everybody else. You've been through the same processes. Bits about anxiety. Obviously, there's a lot I could say about anxiety. I think what I would say is that it's a really, really common issue. There are some fantastic websites where you could read a bit more about it and perhaps answer some of the more specific questions about self-esteem and confidence and how to build on it, and build those things. But I definitely think trying new things is one of those ways. Websites like Anxiety UK is a really good one. Depending on your age, either Young Minds or Student Minds or just Mind, they're all brilliant. And the NHS website is fantastic. Don't forget, NHS, the website is really, really easy website to find. It's got loads on anxiety. But for example, if you're in a relationship, somebody's asked about being in a relationship whilst they're having anxiety, it's fine if that relationship is positive for you. So if the relationship is not part of the cause of the anxiety, then of course it is fine to plenty of people are in relationships and have anxiety and navigate anxiety. The question really is the relationship supportive and positive? If not, then probably best to look at ways to move on. And I'll just I think I've got one more question about becoming isolated and homesick. I would just encourage you to start small and reach out. Consider joining like a local community of people who have something in common with you, where you would feel comfortable. And that might be to do with cultural things, it might be to do with hobbies, it might be to do with volunteering, but just somewhere where you feel comfortable and safe, and then you can build on that. So I'll stop there because we have got through quite a few questions and I hope I've managed to answer some of them.
We have, and thank you so much to everybody that popped a question in there. I hope you find, but I'm sure you did find Dominic's advice really, really useful. And thank you very much, Dominic. It was a really informative webinar. And as I said, this webinar is recorded. We will be sending out the on-demand